everyone, and welcome back to our weekly DSS Break. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're here live every Thursday to talk about data science experiences and best practices with leading data professionals in a quick 15-minute break. So today I'm Anna, as you know, CEO and founder of Formulated by Home of the Data Science Salon, and I'm streaming here back again in Miami. Really nice to be back, and from the heart of Miami and the Design District. And today I'm really excited to welcome my friend and guest, Amarita Natt. She's a managing director of data science at Econ One Research, where she creates advanced statistical models using client data to optimize business outcomes. And Amar will give her advice on how data scientists and consultants can communicate the value proposition of data projects successfully to their managers and clients, which is super important. So it certainly is a challenge, and I'm really excited to have you here, Amar, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. It's always great to talk to you, Anna.
So maybe you could tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the space first before we dive into the questions that I have for you.
Yes, absolutely. So, as Anna said, my name is Amarita Natt. I am an economist by training. I have a PhD in applied microeconomics, but I took my degree in a somewhat non-traditional route and became more of a data scientist. I use client data to optimize their outcomes, usually by doing predictive models or causal inference models on their data. And that sounds like a lot of buzzword soup, but really what it means is I talk to my clients, I understand what they're trying to achieve, and then I try to help them use data to get to those goals.
Cool. Well, I know that you just said you're managing director of data science, and it's an economic consulting firm, which is really interesting. And you build models to understand business drivers. Can you tell us a little bit about how you help your clients optimize their outcomes?
Yeah. So data science is a really broad word and it's a really broad field. And I think of data sort of in three stages. I think of it as current state, which is business intelligence and analysis and exploration, a lot of dashboards, just sort of what are your current sales, things like that. There's future state, which is predictive models, where you're going to be going to statisticians and economists to understand what does your future landscape look like? How many units are you going to sell? How many customers are you going to lose or gain? And then there's alteration of future state. You know what your future looks like, but now you want to change those outcomes. And so that's where economists generally come in, because our specialty is causal inference and understanding drivers of industries. And so really, I would say it all starts with the conversation, understanding what is my client doing? What is the context of the industry? Really thinking about what drives elements of that industry, and then thinking about how they can use whatever data they have to model outcomes that would be useful to them, and that would help them. The goal is either always to make money or save money.
Of course, yeah. Growth, right? Always
Mm-hmm.
growth. And you told me in the previous conversation that one of the topics that you often discuss with your colleagues is the infamous question of what can data do for you? And what is the fundamental miscommunication that happens when a client or manager asks that question? Because I feel like, what can we do with our data? That's such a broad question, right?
It's a really broad question. And I think that one of the fundamental issues is that data science practitioners are, by their nature, very technical people. They're very, very in their world. They are used to sort of the technical aspects of it. And when you hear, what can we do with this data? Your first instinct is to think, what really cool stuff can we model with this? But
Right.
that's not generally what clients are asking. What they're asking is, what's the value proposition? Why
Right.
should we use data to do this thing that we have done in another way that has been good enough up until now? How can data improve that outcome? And so, yeah, there's this fundamental miscommunication of what can we do with our data doesn't mean what's the coolest thing we can do with our data. It means what can we do with our data that's going to be worth the money to do it.
Right. And how has your approach to that question changed over the years from early career till now? Because I'm sure it's different answer, right?
Yeah, I think I will say what took me the longest to learn was to time, effort, money trade-off. How much money do I think this is going to actually cost? How many hours? How much effort? How much investment from the company? Are they going to have to collect new data? Are they going to have to supplement their data in some way? Do they have to build their data pipeline? It's not just going in and doing the modeling. Usually you have to get the data together, versus how much improvement to their business operations are they going to see from the series of models I can do with this data? And a lot of times that means instead of going with maybe the most accurate or the most interesting way to model the data, I go with the simplest but most efficient way to model the data. And I think early career, I had much more of a tendency to think of what is the best, most accurate way to model this instead of what is the way to model this that will get us to a better outcome than we have now and will justify the investment on the part of the company.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So, no, thanks for sharing that. And with the risk of inherent in data scientists not understanding what C-suite stakeholders mean when they ask that question, I feel like that is a big also miscommunication. How could consultants approach that question versus an in-house data teams? I feel like it's a little bit of different, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think the primary risk is the same for both groups. And the risk is just that you build something really great that doesn't get deployed. And down the line, that means that you end up with C-suite types losing faith in what data can possibly do for them. And you end up with data scientists getting disillusioned and feeling like their work isn't meaningful or useful. So I think that's the broad risk. I think that it for in-house data scientists versus consultants, the equation is slightly different, right? As a consultant, I have to scope out this conversation very carefully. I have to give very precise deliverables. I have to have an idea from the start of how everything's going to pay off for the company. And so I do a lot more maybe sort of initial feeling out of the client, right? And if it doesn't work out, then I don't get more gigs with this client. I don't, I lose a lot of potential work streams, but also I ended up not doing something useful for my client, which is not fun. In-house data scientists have a little bit more flex. You can think a little bit more creatively in some ways because the company's already made the investment to build a data science team. And so they understand that within that investment, there is going to be some amount of wasted effort or what you might consider wasted effort. But that means that you can take the chance of doing something that's maybe a little bit more elaborate and has a more long run payoff versus needing to be able to show what that short term return on investment is, which is much more relevant for consulting.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for explaining the difference. Do you ever collaborate with internal teams?
Yes, very, very frequently. I think that a lot of times, again, data science is super broad. So you might have a team of statisticians who aren't used to doing causal inference. You might have people who are doing maybe AI and machine learning, but they need help calibrating the models.
Right.
I have a doctorate, and that means that I spent a lot of time doing a lot of really fancy math. And that's not necessarily something that every company needs to have full time, right? Most companies, if you have a master's, you're going to be able to do 90% of the work. And so for that last 10%, I come in and collaborate with firms and work with their in-house teams to get some more advanced models in place. And I also work with clients to help build their data science teams. I help them hire as they're starting out on their data science journey. Really, I partner with my clients to meet them where they are and then get them where they're trying to go.
That's cool. No, so you basically just kind of are, you make sure that they're successful in their data journey, right? So awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my goal is for everyone to see the inherent usefulness of adding data, right? And if I
Yep.
can do that for my clients, then I've done my job.
Yeah, no, I feel like you do it really well. So, no, thanks for sharing that. And just any last tips on how to communicate with the C-suite stakeholders? Because I feel like that's pretty much a skill of its own.
It absolutely is. I think the first thing to remember is that everybody you are communicating with is highly talented and highly skilled in a way that's totally different from your own. And so when you're communicating with them, you have to assume that they are very, very, very smart. but that they have zero background in what you yourself are doing. And so your job is to sell your usefulness to them.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. And thank you so much, Amar, for joining us and sharing this. It was a pleasure to have you. I hope to have you back again. And Amar is going to be a panelist at our upcoming DSS virtual event on April 20th. That's going to be focused on AI and machine learning in the enterprise. And make sure to register for free. And we'll see you there. And we'll see you back here next week. And thanks again, Amar. It was really nice.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. All right, guys. Bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.